What's up guys, my name is Marc Steiner, and today we're going to be talking about the Canon EOS R5 and the problem with RF lenses. Let's get right into it. So a couple weeks ago, like many others, I made a video about the rumored specs of the Canon R5, and it just seemed too good to be true. I just didn't believe it. Canon's track record was just not good. They've always crippled their cameras, but in the coming weeks, they just kept confirming more and more specs that, even though I still am swallowing with a grain of salt, seem to be closer to reality. And as much as I have an issue with believing everything that they're putting into this camera, it seems as though it's becoming a reality. So I'm excited for that, and I honestly hope that they are true, because this would be an amazing camera, and I think a lot of people would be interested in this. And if they are able to do all this with no cripples, no asterisks, like just straight up this insane camera, this is going to push the industry forward and force other companies to innovate, and that at the end of the day, it means that we're all winners, and I think that's great. The biggest question mark surrounding the Canon EOS R5 right now is the price point. Some rumors are suggesting $3,500, in line with other high megapixel cameras from Sony and Nikon, like the Z7 and the A7R IV, but other people are saying, you know, this is actually more powerful than the 1DX Mark III. How is it going to be on sale for $3,500? We're probably looking at closer to like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for this body. And even then, it honestly wouldn't be a bad price for the specs it's promising to deliver, which is kind of crazy that I'm even saying that. But it would also put it out of reach into the hands of most people who are looking to buy this camera. If you start pricing it close to cinema cameras, then it is not in the reach of many people who are looking to buy this camera, and I think that Canon's RF line will start to suffer because of that. But what they could be doing is what Sony did with the A7 III, just come out with a product that completely blows everything out of the water, is actually losing money on the body, and just sets a new standard for cameras in that price category. And I think if Canon were to do that and actually release this camera in the $3,500, $3,000 to $3,500 price category, it would be a game changer. And my gut says they're going to do that, because in order to actually succeed and have a stake in this mirrorless lineup, especially after bringing up all this hype, they need to release this camera in that price category so it's actually attainable for most people looking to get that camera. So if that's the case and it does come in at $3,500, this becomes a very interesting camera that I think a lot of people are going to be purchasing or switching to. And I know a lot of people, when Sony started getting all the hype, they switched from Canon to Sony because Canon was lagging behind. But I think a lot of those people, as much as they like what Sony has to offer, they still prefer Canon and are very willing to go back if the product is good enough. So I'm interested to see if there's going to be a mass migration back from Sony to Canon, or if people are just going to be switching brands completely from Nikon or Sony who have never had Canon products. I've never owned a Canon product, but I'm very interested in this camera. And that brings me to my next point, the problem with RF lenses. They are just so expensive. Now hear me out. Everyone used to say that Sony lenses were ridiculously expensive, and I'm not saying that they're not, but when you were switching from Canon to Sony or from Nikon to Sony, you could more or less get equivalent lenses for an equivalent price. And if you were selling them off, obviously you're gonna take a loss when you're switching brands, but you know, if you sold 4 lenses, you could buy 3 lenses. But I currently own 3 lenses, right? I have the Sigma 35-1.4, I have the Sony 20mm 1.8, and I have the Sony 85 1.8. If I sold all 3 of those lenses for brand spanking new prices, I couldn't even afford one good quality RF lens. And that's ridiculous that I'd be trading more than 3 lenses for one RF lens. And that's unacceptable. So I think a lot of people, they want to switch to Canon, but are getting turned off by the fact that the lenses are literally out of the price range of anything. And most people, especially people who are not professionals, or more like consumers, maybe prosumers, they don't do this for a living and they don't rely on their gear for everything. They just want a good quality camera, or are tech nerds like me, are going to have a very hard time justifying purchasing a body that is almost the same price as the lens, and it's kind of hard to swallow. So for me, I really like the lenses that I have because they're very good, and they're very good for the price that they are at. The Sigma comes in at $750, and you can get it on sale between $650 and $700, which is awesome. The Sony comes in at $900, which is not the cheapest lens in the world, but for what it offers is very good. And the 85 1.8 is also very good, coming in at $550, $600. And even though that's more expensive for a consumer lens, it competes very well with the higher end lenses. So what you're getting for that bang for buck is very, very good. But Canon doesn't really have any lenses in that price category, so that's kind of an issue. When they started coming out with their RF mount glass, they very safely and smartly decided to come out with awesome new innovative glass for the high-end professional market. And for the people who are investing into this new system, it might have made sense. And a lot of people, you know, when they're jumping ship, they always complain. That was one of the biggest complaints with Sony. When they're jumping ship, there were no pro lenses, and that's why so many people were not jumping ship. And Canon learned from that failure and realized they had to put out pro glass first if they want to be taken seriously, and showing that there is a future in this new mount. So I think that's very smart on their part. But now that they're coming out with a camera that a lot of people are actually wanting, because the previous cameras were kind of garbage, let's be real. Now that they're coming out with a camera that a lot of people are interested in, they've kind of completely ignored the market that wants to buy that camera. They've made all these awesome lenses for the professional. And the professional that they are targeting honestly still has the 5D Mark IV or the 1DX Mark II or the 1DX Mark III. They're stuck in the EF line. They're not buying into RF yet. They're making these lenses future-proof so that down the line they have that for the pro line later on, but they don't have anything for the people who are actually going to be purchasing this camera. The only non-L lenses available right now are the 35 1.8 macro, which comes in at $500, and that's, you know, it's an okay lens. I don't think anyone is singing praises about that lens. The only other non-L lens is the 24 to 240 f4 to 6.3, and that comes in at $900. And again, that's not a very appealing lens for most people who are looking to buy into the new EOS R5. For me, I would never buy that lens. It's variable aperture, it's a super wide range, and I don't really like it. I'm a prime guy, you know, like 35, 50, 85, and then now my new wide angle of 20mm. And they don't have any primes that actually take those positions there. All the other lenses in the RF line are L lenses, and that's great, but those are very expensive, and they all start at $2,300. That's insane. You can't get a single high quality lens for under $2,300, and that's ridiculous. Most people who want to buy into the new system are not going to have money for both a new body and that kind of lens collection if it's that expensive, because it's just not feasible. Like I said, if I sold all three of my lenses for what they were worth brand new, I still couldn't afford any one of the lenses that I actually are interested in getting from Canon. And that's just the starting point. Some of these lenses are $2,500, $2,600, and they haven't even announced the price for the 70 to 200 yet, which could be somewhere between $2,800 and $3,500 depending on how they price that thing, which is insane. That'll be the most expensive pro lens that has ever been on the market. And sure, it might live up to that price point, but for normal people looking to buy a high quality camera, that's not the lens they're trying to buy right off the bat. You know, they want that 50mm prime that's not $2,500. They want that 35mm prime that doesn't exist yet, that's not $2,500. So to buy into this new system is going to be very difficult. And for people switching into this new system, like I would be considering if the lenses weren't so expensive, it's kind of a huge turnoff, because even if you sold all of your gear, you still wouldn't be able to afford anything equivalent of what you currently own. So I think it's very interesting to see how these RF lenses are going to play into either the downfall or the very slow adoption of the new RF line. A lot of people, especially when Sony was coming out with their high-end lenses, were so mad that they were so expensive. They're like, oh my god, these are $1,400, $2,200 for these lenses, it's unacceptable. But now Canon is the biggest culprit here, because they have lenses that in the equivalent ecosystem compared to Sony is more than double the price. And the current bodies that they have out, especially if they want to flesh out this RF mount, the EOS R is a massive disappointment. The people that they're trying to target with the price point of the EOS R and the RP are not going to be the same people who are buying these $3,000 lenses, these $2,500 lenses. People at that price point are not looking to spend more than double what the body of the camera costs. They want cost-efficient lenses to use on their cost-efficient camera, and that niche has not been filled by Canon. So until Canon starts to fill out its more affordable price point in its lens lineup, or third-party lenses actually start filling that price point for them, The EOS R5 is going to be an awesome camera that is not many people are going to be buying RF lenses for. I think if you're coming from an EF standpoint and you have that adapter, I think it becomes much more interesting because now you have all your lenses that you've previously had and you finally waited to upgrade to the mirrorless line, and now you can transition into the RF mount if you so choose, but you have all your EF glass that works perfectly well with that adapter, and I think that is where Canon is going to try and market a lot of things for. I would be very surprised if the R5 did not ship with an adapter like the R did. So we'll see how that works. As always, I'm intrigued to see what you guys think. Do you think that the R5 will live up to the hype? Do you think it will deliver everything we want it to? Is it going to be the new camera standard? Are people going to be switching to it? Do you think that the RF glass is actually a hindrance at this price point? Or are you a big baller who doesn't mind this and you're like, you know what, I'm all in? I genuinely would love to know your thoughts. I'm sure I'm gonna get some hate in the comment section because every time you talk about brands, there's always hate, but I'm genuinely interested in knowing what you guys think about this camera, about switching, whether or not you're gonna buy it, because I'm in an interesting position where I would love to try this camera out, and if it lives up to the hype, I would be willing to switch, but the lenses aren't there. So, my name has been Marc Steiner, and I'll see you next time.